Welcome to ISE's FX Options Weekly Outlook, a weekly outlook on the US dollar versus the major currencies, hosted by Jason Ayres, a top industry instructor and founder of OptionSource.net. Learn to trade your views on the strength or weakness of the US dollar.
Hi there, and welcome to the ISE FX Index Outlook for Friday, June 20th. I'm your host, Jason Ayres. We're going to start off by looking at the US dollar index. Last time we were discussing this index, we recognized that there was a break above a previous pivot point back here that was established in May. You can see that this week the price actually pulled back and has found a support level at the area where we broke out of the previous week. If this support level holds, there's definitely room for a continued move to the upside. At this point, though, it appears that there is a little hesitation. If we look at our RSI, you can see that it has actually turned down, suggesting that we have not necessarily made a commitment to the upside, and there's conflict with the MACD as it still continues to push forward. So at this point, we really want to be cautious with any entries that we take on the long side of the US dollar versus these FX indices that we'll be looking at today. We're going to move right into the CDD, the US versus Canadian dollar index. We saw a very significant rally up into that 103 resistance level. The last time we discussed this, we had seen a pullback and then a retest of that area, and the suggestion was that there was a high probability that we'd see a pullback into a previous support, which incidentally we did see take place. Currently, we see a very bullish candle establishing, in which case, if that 101.5 support level holds, we could look for another rally into that 103. Remember that 103 is very significant with respect to its resistance point. If we do happen to get a break above that, we're still targeting the 104.5 as a reasonable area of resistance on a breakthrough. If we look at our MACD, we can see that our MACD is suggesting that there's still some weakness. So this 101.5 area becomes, or still is a very important area with respect to the prices holding in that range. We look at the RSI, we have a little bit of conflict. So the suggestion would be to watch for a consolidation at this level. Should the price break back in towards the 102 point, we look at a continued move up to the 103. If the 105 or 101.5 doesn't hold, the 101.5 doesn't hold, we'd look at a drop down and a retest of your support down at the 100. Next one we're going to look at is the YUK, the US versus the yen. Again, we saw that 106 level finally break and move towards the target that we'd suggested, or the resistance level that we suggested was present at the 108. You can see very clearly that there was a consolidation at the 108 level, and again the suggestion was that there appeared to be some weakness up there, and we look for a pullback. In saying that, the probability of a retest of the 106 is high. If we look at our MACD and RSI, both are suggesting weakness and suggesting that there is a high probability of a continuation to the downside. That level becomes a very significant support level for our YUK. However, should the prices consolidate at this point, which, although not marked, represents a significant retracement level on the previous move, if that level actually holds, a break above the 108 would likely see a move into the 110 level. The EUI, the US versus the Euro, again, we've identified last time these very significant resistance levels that we saw the US dollar playing into. No different with respect to the EUI. We saw some weakness at the 65.5 and suggested that there'd likely be a pullback down to a previous support, which indeed took place at the 64.5 level. We did see a little bit of a consolidation there over the week, but we saw it break down overnight down into the 64 level. The probability of a continuation to the 63.5 is high. I'd look for a consolidation at that point. If we look at our MACD and our RSI, both are confirming that this is indeed looking weak. And again, high probability that we're going to see a move down into that 63.5 and a little bit of a consolidation. It seems to have become a very significant support level based on previous tests. Should we see that consolidation take place, we'd look for a definite move back in towards that 64.5. Remember that level now becomes a resistance. So any sort of a rally of this index, the EUI, is likely to meet with some resistance at the 64.5 level. The BPX, the U.S. versus British pound, we see that we're meeting with some support down at the 50.5 level at this point. We had originally identified that 51.5 as being a very significant resistance, and the suggestion was that there would likely be a pullback, although it actually blew through a previous target that we had identified. We can look at this this support at the 50.5 as being a very significant retracement level based on a measured move from the basically the 49 level all the way back in March all the way up to the 51.5. So right now we're sitting at a very significant support. We can look for a consolidation of this level in here. If that takes place, we do have a resistance up in the 51, which is essentially where we were targeting on a pullback the last time we discussed this index. So again, the candle that we're identifying here, the last candle that we have printed, shows quite a bit of indecision. So we want to look to see some consolidation in here with the possibility of a push back into the 51 level. If the 50.5 doesn't hold, a break below that previous pivot point is likely going to meet with a support down at the 50. So not a huge, not a lot of room for movement there. A little half point push down towards the 50 level. That's our next area for our target area as far as a support level is concerned. If we look at our MACD and our RSI, both are suggesting weakness, which is telling me that we should be cautious with respect to taking any long positions with calls. Let's see how these prices play around the 50.5 mark. Look for some consolidation, and then we could play a move off of a break either to the upside or the downside. If you're looking to play both sides of it, of course you could always implement a straddle or a strangle by purchasing a call and a put and making sure that you're managing your positions accordingly. If it breaks to the upside, lock your profits in with your calls on the call side and cut your losses on the puts. And of course, the opposite applies if it breaks to the downside. Well, that's been your ISE FX Index Outlook for Friday, June 20th. As always, I'm your host, Jason Ayres. Thanks very much for joining me today, and I will see you here next time.
Thank you for participating in this week's session. Please join us again next week. For more information about Jason Ayres and to sign up for free FX options trade alerts, just visit www.optionsource.net. To learn more about ISE FX options, including our weekly webinar series, visit us at www.ise.com/fx. ISE FX options can easily be traded through all options-enabled brokerage accounts. These exchange-listed securities are cash-settled in U.S. dollars and have a European-style exercise.